My dearest daughter Mary, if you're reading this letter, then I am dead. If you're not Mary, shame on you. Put this letter aside. You have not done it? Fine. You are curious. It is a thing that killed the cat, after all. My clever girl, we have always promised to tell each other the truth, no matter how painful. But I have to confess, I have not shared one important truth with you. When people notice my missing arm, they shake their heads. The war? Pirates, I say, and they laugh. Your mother used to say I was quite the storyteller. Always made her laugh. When you were born, Mary, in the summer of 1920, the doctors thought you would soon exit this world shortly after your mother. But I knew you were a fighter. You could be helped. But the cost of your treatment was more than I could afford on my meagre salary. I, Henry Winchester, was a professor of history at some poddock American college, teaching a class on the Caribbean pirates. Is it true they made people walk the plank? Possibly. There's a little bit of evidence they did. Do you know where the buried treasure is? If I knew the location of gold doubloons, do you think I would be wearing this jacket? It sounds grim. It was grim. At the end of one class, a young woman stayed behind. I'm sorry, office hours are between. I'm not one of your students. My name is Miss Annabella Rott. I knew the name. Rott. I mean, Annabella is a common enough name. Captain Barthold Rott, the terror of the Caribbean, famed pirate. He flew a skull and crossbone. He tarred and feathered his enemies. He vanished along with his plunder into the cavernous hideaways. Legend of buried treasure started with him. Most exciting of all, Barthold's greatest treasure. I longed to know what it was. Some thought it was a diamond the size of a man's fist, a crystal skull, or a golden chalice. All nonsense, though, I thought. The stuff of cheap pulp novels, busty women, torn shirts and traps. Educated guess, Professor. Where would my ancestor hide his treasure? Well, interesting question. If I had to guess, maybe a small island in the middle of the... Yes! Exactly where you are pointing on the actual treasure map you have. Oh! I will not disclose the location of the caves, but as we sailed up the coast, Miss Rott was giddy with possibility. She had hired a couple of local guards to discourage looters. There was a limited window of a few hours as the tide pulled away to show the cave. Into the tunnels we went. Me, Miss Rott, the two guards, and Barthold. Yes, Annabella actually brought her dog with her, a big mutt. I told her we didn't need a dog in the pirate cave, but she insisted. Barthold could find clues. Barthold did not manage to sniff out any clues or find treasure. Barthold was able to sniff out a scorpion that stung him on the nose, and we left the distraught Annabella with her pistol to do the right thing, while we moved deeper into the tunnels. It was reassuringly uneventful to start with. The guards silent, Annabella sniffling, and me wondering quite what I brought to the expedition. But with even a handful of gold I could pay for your medicine, Mary. We could leave the city, move you to the countryside, where you would grow healthy and strong. Maybe you could even learn to ride a horse. I was brought back to the present with a click. One guard had stepped on a rock. He turned, confused. Then a large log swung down and took his head off. In hindsight, that is when we should have decided to give up, when a man had lost his head. But the tide was gaining on us. Even then we could hear waves lapping. Time was running out. Then it got stranger. There were puzzles, tests, traps, self-lighting candles, finding keys and pouring sand into vases to open doors, redirecting mirrors to light up crystals. In one cave, a sign said, "Only the penitent shall pass." Knowing the scriptures, I suggested the god got down on his knees and crawled. Arrows, blades, darts, all shooting past his head, until a spear came straight up from the ground and took him through the chin. It was cheating. The man bent to the knee to the Lord and yet was slain. But we made it. Miss Rott began to talk of her plans. What would happen when we returned and presented the treasure to be displayed in the new Annabella Rott wing of the museum? How she would attend lavish parties, have her photograph taken with actors. "Excuse me, Miss Rott." "Please, Henry. We have been through so much together. Call me Annabella." "Miss Rott, I believe we were going to sell the treasure." "How could you, a man of learning, suggest such a thing?" "I don't want to see my daughter die." That moment, that seed, as she looked so confused, why would this expedition of ours have anything to do with my daughter? And the doubt set in. The end of a corridor revealed a cavern. On the other side of a ravine below was a churning sea. Lying in a chair, the remains of a man, and his fine coat and befeathered hat. The last resting place of Captain Bertolt Rott. On the table next to him, a key. Behind him, a beautiful wooden chest. I went first. A run and a leap, and I made it across. The rock crumbling behind me. The key fitted in the lock. This was going to be it. I could save you, Mary. Then Annabella leapt. She shrieked, and her foot... It's in those little moments that let you know who you are. What you are in the dark. Annabella's foot slipped and she began to fall backwards. I span and put out a hand. Her hand grasped my own and we balanced for a moment. And I saw a vision. Miss Rott drinking champagne and laughing at a joke at the opening of a new museum wing. And I saw myself choosing the wood of my daughter's coffin and having to decide if I wanted her to be buried with her beloved teddy bear. So I let go. If hitting the side of the pit didn't kill her, the crack of bones as she struck the rock surely did. The tide slowly pouring in. Just the sound of the sea. Of course she was dead. Sometimes the rushing of water can sound like a young woman gargling blood and slowly drowning. I turned back. The greatest treasure of Pirate Bertolt Rott. It was all mine. The contents of the chest, a scrap of paper, words in a beautiful flowing hand. Behold the greatest treasure of Bertolt Rott. The true treasure is the friends you have made along the way. And I thought of you, and how you are so brave, sitting by your bed in a hospital far from home as the machines whirl and click. I would whisper to you that the machine was crashing, screaming, just because it was your friend and trying to help you, make you better, to let you come home with me, that I would do anything for you. And that is when the dog bit off 3 of my fingers. Annabella did not have the nerve to kill him. So he followed his mistress, witnessed her death. This avenging angel in my darkest moments, I can argue the death of Arabella Locke was an accident. Her foot slipped. I wasn't strong enough. The dog. I slammed the lid of the chest down on his head. Once, twice, 3 times. I do not recall how I pulled myself from that cave. I was found by local fishermen 2 days later, sunburnt and raving. I was lucky to get away with the burns and only the loss of my arm. The bite was too infected to treat. Maybe I should have gotten a hook. In my hospital bed one night, I awoke to a man by my side. "Forgive me, Professor. My name is Harold Rott. I'll be brief. It seems you have met with a terrible fate. I understand my foolish, wild daughter dragged you on an insane quest for treasure. It has cost me dear, and you also. I never liked the dog, but I never could refuse her my only child. She should never have taken that wretched dog with her, and I am so sorry that it attacked you, for no good reason, and bit off your fingers so you ended up losing your arm. Do we understand each other? There is a swarm of reporters who want your story. I would pay for your silence, that you will never speak of what happened in those caves." A long pause. "Mr. Rott, I understand. When I returned home, I was told the news that you had been sent to England for the finest treatment. Our clever doctors. I would applaud, but you grew healthy. You grew strong. You rode that horse. I have kept my promise all these years, never spoken of my deeds, but now I hear that there is a trip being made to find Rott's treasure. I do not know what I fear more, the discovery of my sins, or that the sea will have washed the bloody deeds away. I fear it will all come out. I have just returned from one of these clever doctors. They tell me I only have days left to live. I feel I owe you the truth. If this is some curse beyond the grave, then they have taken their time. I got what I wanted. My greatest treasure was seeing you grow up, hearing you laugh, seeing you smile. I paid for you to live, to thrive. Just cost me my arm. My soul